Minister,
other
this question
people as well, you know.
relates to the Class P PRSI contributions that were established for share fishermen to avail of limited benefits under the social insurance scheme. There has been a very poor take-up from share fishermen in relation to the scheme, but there is a number of small inshore fishermen who would be, I suppose, sole traders or maybe own their own boats, who might have one or two crew, but who can't avail of any social insurance for periods of bad weather when they can't fish, and they are dependent on the catch of the vessel for their income. And I just would ask that maybe that the scheme could be extended to include them, to give them some worthwhile.
Thank you, Deputy. Taoiseach.
I want to thank the Deputy for the question. The treatment of workers involved in the fishing industry depends on whether they are regarded as an employee or self-employed, or if they're self-employed and a share fisherman or a share fisherwoman for social insurance purposes. A fisherman or a woman who's paid a fixed wage or salary may be regarded as an employee of the boat owner or skipper, and similar to other employees in other sectors, is liable to pay PRSI contributions at Class A. Class A employees pay PRSI at 4%, and they have access to the full range of social insurance benefits, including job seekers benefit. In addition, their employer makes a PRSI contribution of 10.75%. Fishermen or women who are not employees may be regarded as self-employed for social insurance purposes. Once annual income exceeds $5,000, they are liable for PRSI at the Class 8 rate of 4%, subject to the minimum payment of €500. This gives entitlement to a more limited range of long-term benefits, but very valuable benefits, such as the state pension contributory, widows, widowers or surviving civil partners pension contributory, as well as maternity benefit, adoptive benefit and guardians payment contributory. A person who works in the fishing industry on a self-employed basis and is paid solely by the share of the value of the catch is regarded as a share fisherman or woman. In addition to their liability to pay Class S PRSI contributions, they also have the option, Deputy, to pay additional PRSI contributions at Class P. The contribution is over and above the PRSI paid under Class S. It's charged at 4% of all income over $2,500, subject to a minimum annual payment of $200. Class P entitles the contributor then to limited job seekers benefit up to 13 weeks in each calendar year, limited illness benefit up to 52 weeks, and treatment benefits.
Thank you, Taoiseach. The rest of the reply will appear in the official report. Deputy Thomas Pringle.
Minister, thanks for the outline in relation to what Class P is, and that's not really what I'm asking. We have attempted through the Oireachtas Committee for Agriculture, Food and the Marine to tease out this question with your department as well on a number of occasions over the last 6 or 7 months, and that's the stock answer we keep getting. The crux of the issue is that there are fishermen who would be owners of their own boats, who are self-employed and treated as self-employed, who depend on a share of the catch, who depend on the catch for their income, and who are inshore fishermen who are not, you know, this isn't big trawler owners or anything like that there. These are small inshore fishermen who are excluded from Class P because they are not share fishermen as like employees. They are the employer, but they are in the same situation where they're dependent on the catch. And for long periods last year, as you know, during the storms and that, they were prevented from making a livelihood at all. And I know you're going to say they're entitled to a job seekers allowance on a means-tested basis or anything like that there. But what they would really value and really like is the right to make a social insurance contribution, which would give them that sense of security for periods when there would be bad weather. And the question is about the definition of the share fishermen under the scheme, and whether the scheme could be amended to allow them to
well, you know, with the weather in Donegal recently, I think everybody appreciates that the vagaries of the weather can be very, very tough on people in the fishing industry, and you know, I hope the current weather doesn't cause too many problems. So I understand, Deputy, then you're talking really about the boat owner, and that you'd like the boat owner to have access, really, is to the Class P insurance. Well, We can certainly have a look at that. I don't know. I know, for instance, that in 2012, 16 individuals opted to pay Class P contributions. Now, I don't know whether the people you're describing, if they're pretty much full-time fishermen or they would be fishermen and farmers, because they may have other social welfare, let's say, issues or connections. So in a certain sense, we need to have a look at it on a case-by-case basis and see actually how many people are likely to be involved. Obviously, you're just talking about the Northwest, but there might be other people in other parts of the country.
Thank you,
I just also want to say as well that anybody who is a fisherman or indeed a farmer, if their income situation, for reasons, say, of storms and weather, deteriorates badly, we change the system so that they can come in the context of their current circumstances. It used to be that it was on a preceding year basis. Now, it is, as you said, means tested, but in effect, about 90% of applications for job seekers allowance, providing they meet the means test, are actually granted nowadays, whereas 3-4 years ago, very few were granted at all.
Thank you, Minister. Deputy Pringle.
Minister, in the case of share fishermen, quite a lot of, probably most of the share fishermen now are treated as employees because they are on a contract that takes them out of that self-employment situation. But even when they weren't, there was a very small take-up of it because it was a voluntary contribution, and I suppose people didn't want to voluntarily hand over some of their earnings in that situation. But I think there would be an appetite out there. I don't think you're talking about huge numbers of people. You might be looking at maybe 1,000 or 1,500 across the country, but it would make a huge difference to them in terms of being able to have a social insurance claim rather than a social assistance claim, and it would benefit them greatly. And there would be quite a few of those that would be full-time fishermen and full-time dependent on their income from fishing as well. So, Minister, maybe I don't know, maybe the scope section or something like that there could look into this and maybe try and see if there's some way that it can be accommodated, because I think it's something that would be of value.
Thank you. Final reply.
I'm certainly prepared to look at it, Deputy, because I do know that people in the fishing industry, they work very hard, and particularly the inshore fishermen. I would be aware that it's a tough occupation. There isn't a vast amount of money in it, except from time to time. But they would, and this can be a difficulty, they would if they decided to go with Class P, and I presume, knowing them, you're indicating that they would accept paying the extra, 4% on the terms and conditions, because it does actually give rise to quite good benefits. The job seekers for 13 weeks, and the job seekers benefit and illness benefit for up to 52 weeks. But I have to say, in the reports on the advisory group, where we advocated, or the advisory group, I should say, advocated, for instance, that all self-employed people for an extra 1.5% would get invalidity. I mean, unfortunately, a lot of the associations and organisations representing people self-employed in different categories, they were very opposed to it. And again, their suggestion was, do it on a voluntary basis. But it's impossible to do a comprehensive social insurance scheme on a voluntary basis, because like all insurance, it's based on a lot of people taking out the cover, and then those people who need the actual benefits benefiting.
Thank you.
But I will ask my officials to look at the Deputy.